Hi, in this video we're going to talk about 5 ways that you can overcome procrastination. So the first tip is to focus on starting the task, to focus your thoughts on starting something instead of focusing your thoughts on doing the thing. When you're thinking of doing something, you're focusing on the harder part or the seemingly harder part because it takes longer to do something than to start it, right? And that creates resistance. Your brain creates resistance for you, and the likelihood that you will procrastinate is higher if you focus on doing the thing. If you just start it, then once the ball starts moving, then it will keep on moving unless it is acted upon by an outer force, unless something hinders it. And it's like the first law of motion, that any object that is in motion will stay in motion unless it is acted upon by an external force. And that is the same with procrastination, because you'll keep on procrastinating unless you push yourself to stop procrastinating, and you'll keep on doing something productive if you're able to push yourself to start doing it. Usually the 2 minutes you take to push yourself to start something that you need to do, those 2 minutes are the most important ones. It's also kind of like friction, because friction in the start is higher than the friction that you experience once the thing starts rolling or once this thing starts moving. So just focus on starting to move. The second thing is to give your brain a taste of its own medicine. So whenever you want to do something that is productive, something that is good for you in the long run, your brain comes up with a fantastic excuse for why you should do the thing tomorrow, right? So you can apply the same method on your brain. You can tell whenever it tells you to procrastinate, or whenever it's like, oh, let's relax now, this is too much to do. Then you trick your brain and you tell it, no, let's relax tomorrow, let's procrastinate tomorrow. Right now we're going to do this thing. Right? So if you use the same technique, don't say no, because no creates frustration. It creates a sense of urgency. And whenever there's a sense of urgency, then you end up doing things that you shouldn't do. Tip number 3 is to stop the task before it starts feeling burdensome. And it's the same with people, right? If someone's around you all the time, even if you like them, at some point it becomes suffocating, and then you're like wanting to get away, right? So that applies to tasks as well. Because when you're doing something all the time, you are so exhausted that you just want to quit. So it's better to take breaks. If you're working all the time, then you don't have to have the time to look forward to your work. You don't have the time to miss your work, and that just makes you tired of the work and makes you dislike the work. So take breaks from your work and stop the work if it begins to feel burdensome. And that's not to say that you should just stop it whenever you want to stop it, but when it really exhausts you. Tip number 4 is to establish a habit before you try to optimize it. When you're just starting out, then you should focus on repetition, not improvement. Because sometimes people are too ambitious right at the start. They try to improve things very rapidly, and then they don't get the results that they're hoping for. And when they don't see the changes in themselves, when they don't see the results, then they just get frustrated and they want to quit. So focus on repetition, focus on establishing a habit before you try improving it. And also, if you haven't established a habit yet and then you're tempted to quit it because it gets frustrating, right? Because you're trying to improve yourself very rapidly, you're putting all your effort into that thing and it's not giving you the results that you're expecting, then especially when you've not made it a habit yet, it's much easier to quit. So focus on establishing a habit, focus on doing a little, but doing it consistently so that it can become a habit. Tip number 5 is a very obvious one, and it is to not tempt yourself. So for example, drugs are extremely addictive, but the majority of people are not addicts, and the reason for that is that the majority of people haven't tried drugs, so they don't become addicts. If you don't want to procrastinate, then don't tempt yourself to procrastinate. Like, you have a certain amount of work laying around that you need to do, and then at the same time you have the TV switched on and there's a new movie that you really want to watch. The probability that you'll procrastinate and you leave the work and you watch the movie is much higher when the TV is switched on. So put hindrances between things that can potentially attract you or potentially tempt you. Put hindrances between you and procrastination. Don't tempt yourself, and that in itself would decrease the likelihood that you'll procrastinate. So those were the 5 tips that you can use to overcome procrastination. I hope you learned something, and I hope you can apply these tips in your life. Bye bye.